here in the East Cleveland area, and we're scanning the laboratory. We have husband and wife. Uh, how would you describe them?
Husband and wife mannequins
Husband and wife mannequin.
attached to the electrocardiogram machine.
Okay, and what are some of the things performed on this particular dummy? The husband is laying inside the bed here, in the hospital bed.
What actually happens, we do a little testing application of my electrocardiogram machine. The electrocardiogram machine is a diagnostic tool for diagnosing heart disease. Initially, when a person is admitted as an inpatient or outpatient of a hospital. The electrocardiogram machine is an electrical tracing, magnetic tracing of the heart, and it will record any waveforms to indicate any abnormality in the heart's rhythm or heart rate. It's what I found useful to me in instructing the program or the course is to administer the electrocardiogram machine and attach it to my husband and wife mannequins first before we actually administer the machine to a person. So the students will get an idea exactly where specific and location to place what is known as electrocardiogram leads that are attached to the magnetic devices or small metal attachments. And it records this within 1 or 2 minutes. The doctor is the one who diagnoses the cardiac disease specifically, but it's the technician who administers the test. We have, as you probably will indicate or view, we have a treadmill. We have also an exercise bicycle. And the machine is attached to people that are running on the treadmill as well as riding the bicycle to test their target heart rate. It indicates if the person is actually healthy or unhealthy. There's a measurement of heart rate values to indicate whether a person is below or above average in terms of their target heart rate. So the exercise lab with the electrocardiogram machine, the treadmill, and the exercise bicycle, these 3 devices are used to diagnose heart disease. And the cardiologist does utilize them specifically in a hospital lab. You see the computers here because everyone has to be literate in computers. In a hospital, they utilize special programs for the computers. No more charts are written as documentation. Everything is a computer in a patient's room as well as the laboratory for diagnostic purposes. So students would learn how to become literate in computer technology as well as the diagnostic devices in the lab. We also have cardiopulmonary resuscitation. My 2 husband and wife mannequins are utilized for that too. So I actually utilize them as a dual purpose for CPR as well as the application of the electrocardiogram machine.
Okay,
You're welcome. Okay, part 2 of the session. This happens to be a synthetic arm that's utilized to locate veins and arteries. And as a phlebotomist or laboratory technician, they are instructed to insert needles into a vein to draw venous blood that's used for diagnostic purposes. And this arm feels so real, you know. And this is why you want it to feel as near and real as possible, like the human arm, to draw blood. The arteries and veins are synthetic, as well as this arm. So we do train laboratory technicians, or better known as laboratory assistants, to become certified phlebotomists is the term or title used. And the Greater Cleveland Tualatin Training Services is one of the national testing sites for the administration of certification phlebotomy examinations, as well as certifications in electrocardiography, as well as drug collection, as well as insurance, life insurance, physical examiners. So we have 4 certifications, and they're national board exams that are administered here in East Cleveland. We made history because for the last 15 years, East Cleveland, Ohio, Greater Cleveland Tualatin Training Services has had the highest scores in passing for certification out of Northeastern Ohio testing sites. And that's one of the highest honors. Also, it was a recipient of the Pine Sol Corporate Award in 2008 from Los Angeles, California. The Pine Sol Corporation recognized that this service and training in a community has made a powerful impact in the residents of this community of 20,000 people in terms of the population. I have maintained an 85 to 95% job placement rate after training the students in these fields. Also, my hospital affiliations are student affiliations, which students receive hands-on training under medical supervision for these particular professions.
Okay, well now which hospitals are your students coming from for your services?
They're coming from the Lewis B. Stokes Veterans Affairs at Wade Park Unit, the cardiology department. They've been training there over the last 10 to 15 years. And they have been placed upon certification and the evaluation of the hospital training and the certification. They have been placed in many of the Cleveland Clinic satellite hospitals and satellite clinic centers, as well as some at University Hospital, as well as the Veterans Administration itself. So the major hospitals of students have met the requirement or the criteria for quality training and certification to be hired. The accreditation is a national accreditation, which happens to be the Accreditation Commission International out of Sarasota, Florida. So it is nationally accredited for this program. So I was able to plan, develop, and implement and obtain and meet the requirements of the accreditation, the training, and the student affiliation at the hospitals.
Okay, and how long have you had your accreditation?
I've had it for approximately 5 years. And it wasn't easy to obtain, but I met the criteria. There are different phases or levels of accreditation you must attain before you attain the highest level. But with the corporate Pine Salt Award, I'm also, in June of 1985, the Honorable Louis B. Stokes actually attended one of my commencement ceremonies, and he was a keynote speaker. And from the results of the ceremony, the proclamations from Cuyahoga County Commissioners, the mayor of the city of Cleveland, and the congressman himself, we were honorably entered into the Congressional Record Book in Washington, D.C. in June of 1985 for the impact of this program in the East Cleveland community as well as the inter-county. Also, it is one of the programs that has been in operation for approximately 25 years, and it's never closed its doors because of the lack of funding. It's not solely dependent on any federal Pell Grant or student loan funding to have its operations to be continued. It has survived the financial crisis of a community, as well as many other programs have really downsized, but it's still here to serve the community. Because of its impact in the community, as well as national acclaim, out of Cambridge, England, contacted me. It was the International Biographical Association. They wanted to enter my program and myself into its publications. So many of the library reference departments and who's who in the world of women, who's who in education, who's who in business, you will find my name. Also in Who's Who in African Americans out of LaSalle, Illinois, as well as the American Society for Who's Who. So many of the Who's Who, about approximately 14 publication of Who's Who's, has my name in there representing my program as the president and founder of it. And I would want to others, leaders, newer leaders or younger leaders of the East Cleveland community to follow guidelines or to following mentoring objectives of my program. That would be my legacy for others to learn and to actually implement or keep things sustained. You know, I have my relatives recently relocated to the East Cleveland area, and I'm mentoring her as well. I have grandchildren and great-grandchildren that I've mentored in other cities and states as well. So the program has had a profound effect on my relatives as well as residents of the community. And I'm grateful about that because there is so much to learn. Learning is a continual process. I'm always looking, investigating, researching newer concepts.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Yes.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay, I wanted to also mention that Mr. Tom Joyner of the Tom Joyner Foundation, in cooperation with McDonald's Community Service Award, did purchase and donate this artificial synthetic arm to the Greater Cleveland Tattoo training, the mannequins that you saw in the bed, and also the electrocardiogram machine. That was my Christmas wish for my program. So they were instrumental in making certain that I was a recipient of this award just in time for Christmas of 2011. And also I wanted to mention that other awards in the past have been, like I mentioned, the Pine Sol Corporate Award, the other awards out of town, the Life Outreach Urban Development Corporation Award out of Randalltown, Maryland, because I committed to Baltimore, Maryland to do many service projects there. So that was an award, special award to the program. So because it is nonprofit in origin, many voluntary contributions, private foundation grants on a national basis have enabled the program can continue its operation. I'm continuously researching the Rockefeller Foundation Center in New York, as well as Los Angeles, California, because the national foundations seem to be more resourceful and in their donations or contributions to nonprofits. I have a tendency not to think out of the box as in terms of not being localized or relying solely upon the local foundations here, because many of our private local foundations are funded by corporations, and many of the corporations have left the city of Cleveland or the county, and because of maybe sometimes a higher tax base, they relocate in another city and state, and they take the foundation money with them. That's why I don't solely rely on local private foundation contributions and really think out of the box or be resourceful on a national level.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, okay. Dr. Valerie Cooper,
Yes.
tell me about yourself and your family history.
All right. First of all, I'm Valerie Jean Cooper, originally from Akron, Ohio, Summit County. My parents were Reverend Charles Cooper and Reverend Mary Carson Cooper. My childhood was very exciting in a household, family household. I have 3 other siblings and 1 autistic brother and 1 brother deceased. It was 4 other siblings, I'm correct. And my mother died very young, but she left a legacy. And as I recall, she was a clergy person, one of the few licensed clergy in the state of Ohio in the 1950s. She conducted marriages and funerals. And she was also a journalist. She was a pioneer or trendsetter of Reflections of Life magazine in Akron, Ohio. It was the first African American publication. It was a family magazine, and she utilized us as models in the magazine. And it was very wholesome. She had a column very similar to Ann Landers. She would ask Reverend Mary, and she would answer different questions of life and address any social issues. She was also a poet, and she taught poetry to her siblings. And I'm, for one, as a recipient. I have a sister who's a poet, and she has national acclaim with her poetry. It's all religious poetry. And my childhood was very, like I said, exciting. Growing up in the Cooper household, we went out camping. We went out on different trips. My mother would take us traveling with her, even throughout the neighborhood. She planned, developed, and implemented a helping hand network, and for the neighbors in the neighborhood. She would actually collect clothing or any clothing donations. She would also collect food. She had a food bank and a clothing bank out of her home. And we would be the delivery people to the various homes of people that were lacking, especially towards the end of the month if they were on fixed incomes. So she was very instrumental there. And because of her demise, I decided to pick up her mantle and start implementing some of the things she wasn't able to. One, in 1977, 2 weeks after her demise, my first publication came out. It was a Church Nurses Guild manual, and her picture was there with one of her poems. She never lived to see it, but that manual was the first of its type to pioneer into the church setting, church environment, and it was actually displayed at a convention, a church convention in Atlanta, Georgia in 1977. So therefore, I went on to pursue other projects. I was married and widowed, I guess at 42 years old, and I learned to regroup and forge ahead with other lifelong projects to get through the grieving process. I am a graduate of Thomas Edison College out of Trenton, New Jersey, with a bachelor's in social science, magna cum laude, also my master's degree in social sciences from the University of Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with magna cum laude, and then my doctorate in social research development from Union State University and College in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, I did receive scholarships on a bachelor's and master's level. They were academically. After 1979, I was have actually relocated to Youngstown, Ohio, and I was the executive director of an agency called the Gilliam Family Services. And during that time, I was contacted from the White House, Washington, D.C. Louis Martin was a minority officer of the former President, Jimmy Carter, and he asked me if I wanted to serve on the National Council of Aging to chair that committee, a 2-year appointment. And I decided, well, this is an opportunity. Goodbye, Youngstown. I'm on my way to Washington, D.C. And during the 2-year commitment or appointment, I was over the National Council of Aging. I was able to allocate funds to different states, cities and states, and Cleveland, Ohio was one of them. Anna Brown was the director of the Office on Aging here. So I was able to meet her, and she invited me to relocate to Cleveland, Ohio in the near future, which I did take her up on an invitation. In 1980, when I relocated to Cleveland, 81 to Cleveland, Ohio, it was the U.S. government wanted me to have a physical exam of my eyes. My vision was failing. And I had opportunity to be evaluated at Cleveland Clinic, and I had surgery, but I was told it would still be progressive blindness. I would be visually challenged from legally blindness to permanent. So during that 15-year window, I decided I was going to change my occupations from the medical field or administration to social sciences and to seminary education. So therefore, I went back to school in 1994 and obtained my doctorate in education. Then in 1997, I went back for theology, my doctorate, and I came out summa cum laude. During the years of 1994 to 1997, I had legal blindness. Ohio could not accommodate my needs. So therefore, I attended the University of Indiana, Richmond, Indiana, the university there, over the Ohio border. And during that time, I had equipment to accommodate my needs at that time, my educational needs. So I commuted there quite often to Richmond, Indiana to school, and I finished in 1997 at the top of my class. I was summa cum laude. And it was a surprise. It was the best kept secret until the degree was conferred upon me. And literally I cried because it was a difficult year for me, and I developed it. And my dissertation was entitled The Manifestations of God to the Unsighted. And what I utilized was the Bible. I had it in very large bold print. For people who could not read the Bible at church, they had something they could read and relate to. They wouldn't feel omitted from the congregation. I also used my white guide or stick, and I demonstrated it, and the scripture came to me, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct thy paths. Then I had my Bible tapes on my recorder, cassette recorder that was color-coded and in Braille, to utilize that to hear my Bible tapes and scripture. Then I had gospel tapes as well in my cassette recorder, another one. What I was doing was, when setting up a religious service in a home that had visually challenged persons, and they could adapt. If they couldn't get out to church service, they had something, religious entertainment or religious service that could be conducted in their home. There were sermons on tape. These Bible tapes are obtained from the state of Florida free for the visually impaired. And I was a recipient of that. So I actually this was unheard of at the time, but impacted the class of seminary graduates. That if you had anyone that was visually challenged or impaired, this is the way to go. There are agencies in the community, such as the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation. We had the Ohio Services Commission out of Ohio Rehabilitation Services Commission out of Columbus, Ohio. There are state agencies that once you're diagnosed as visually challenged impairment, that they will actually refer you to the Sight Center, and you can go shopping down there for devices that you need, a money counter, a wristwatch for the time, a regular clock, a timer on the kitchen stove, a wall timer clock, a talking scale. I have one. And when I got on the scale, it says, oh, you're squeezing me. And I took the battery out because I was angry, you know, when you're overweight. It had a talking blood pressure cup for people with high hypertension, high blood pressure. So these devices are expensive, but they're available through the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation for the visually impaired. We still have that in Cuyahoga County, and we have that for the hearing impaired as well. So there's equipment that can be purchased for someone to actually keep them independent, living in the home environment. The University of Indiana produced a DVD that I demonstrated independent living aids for those that are visually impaired and in a wheelchair. How do you live independently? Step by step. I was able to demonstrate it and distribute it to East Cleveland residents free of charge at the Helen S. Brown Center in the year 2007 with that particular DVD. And they also videotaped other devices, like the radio that has all the world's magazines on it. Even the Cleveland Plain Dealer, you turn any time of day and you hear the magazine read to you over the radio, plus to keep you in tune with the politics and religious events all over the world. So I was happy to be able to do that, and for other people too with similar diagnosis or similar problems. After 1997, I did also travel to Detroit, Michigan, whereby I did grant research and devised a grant for the late mother of civil rights, Rosa Parks. And my ordination was delayed because I was there. But when I returned back to Baltimore, I received my ordination as a clergy and my license also as a clergy. So I am Ohio licensed as a clergy to conduct marriages and funerals. Right now it's still current. Then in 1998, the University of Indiana, along with the Seminary College, conferred an honorary degree in humanities for my work that I've done in Baltimore, Maryland, Linton, Indiana, and also New York, and New Jersey.
Now, speaking of your family history, I've heard that your father influenced your decision.
Yes, my father was a male nurse at a state psychiatric institution in Northville, Ohio. He was also supervisor at the B.F. Goodrich Company. And because my mother had cardiac disease, my dad maintained 2 jobs. But he used to bring home his nurse's notes, nursing medical terminology, and encouraged me to take Latin in my sophomore and junior years in high school. So I did take Latin because Latin is the basis for medical terminology. My father impacted my life a lot because he was always there. He would always console me if I felt I had a problem. It was sad. He was always consoling me, especially we were both widowed around the same time. So I had my dad to come relocate to East Cleveland because here we find a widower, the father, consoling the widow, his daughter. So we complement each other there. And so he was very instrumental in my life, my father and mother, but he outlived my mother. And he was there. The nursing he always promoted and always told me that's the way to go, is to nursing. Because you learn a lot about people culture and diagnosis. He was very true there. And religiously, he had an associate degree in ministry from Cleveland, Tennessee. And he would actually prepare his sermons and research them. I always told him that, complimented him, that he was a walking Bible, you know, because he knew everything in the scriptures. And he lived it too, lived a Christian life. He was my role model, and my mother was too. Those two were my mentors in my life. And because of their motivation, and my mother once told me, she said, you're having some visual problems, and if they're not corrected by islands, she said, if you ever go blind, never give up. You pursue your goal and you finish it to the end. And you can always be creative in other occupations. Don't linger or focus on one occupation. Well, I ended up with 4 or 5 somehow because of the visually challenged, but I'm finding it to be true what she told me. And my father always motivated and encouraged me. And because of that, my other younger siblings looked at me as the role model, and I mentored them, and they're successful today. You know, the youngest one is a clergy with her doctorate from the same school. So they are. In 2001 was my last time that I graduated from college seminary, and it was in a doctorate of administration and organization, because I was able to start other extension seminary colleges and obtain accreditation thereof. So because of that effort, then I finished with that degree, was the last. I saw the college start from a college and was very instrumental as a board of trustee and chairman of the advisory committee to see it advance to the university level. And I was glad to be a part of that change. So after 2001, then I really became totally blind. And I didn't let it stop at all, because I tell everyone that I come in contact with that, and I tell my doctors that God is the greatest physician of all time, that He looks after me and He guides me. And I ask God this, that if I lost my vision totally, would you replace it with a computer brain? And He did just that. He's the very essence of my life. Now when I write a grant, a scroll comes over my eyes. I can dictate it. I can add up the budget, everything in a matter of a few hours. It's done. And that grant is funded. And that's all because God gave me that gift. I lost 1 sense, but He replaced it with the brain to download and upload is what's happening with it. But I'm grateful to be alive today. Everyone has their challenges, physical challenges as well as visual. I'm still here. I'm still enjoying life. And I'm enjoying the things and occupational things that I enjoy doing most is serving God and servicing the people of my community and enabling those to help themselves to move in a more positive direction and to improve the quality of life in people, in their social status, etc. Because now we're in 2012 and we still have a high rate of unemployment. But I still say this, I've heard it on Channel 8 several times. Cleveland looks after its own. When people leave this city, and I did just the visiting, and you relocate or you visit other cities, the magnitude of the problems are the highest, that you are ready to come back to Cleveland right away because you have like a haven of rest and you have the resources locally to help people. And that I'm very grateful to. We have the #1 world's Cleveland Clinic here, world hospital here, and research, medical research. When it comes to Cleveland, we have social injustices, and this is by the media. Negative news is being reported, but not the positive news. And I'm hoping that in the very near future, that this will change. The media will actually change its objectives and will move from a negative to a positive mode. For example, when I was a recipient of Pinesville Corporate Award, Pinesville contacted the media, Channel 3, Channel 5, Channel 8, 19. When it was followed up locally, they did not respond. The only person that came out to interview me in January 2009 was Demita Harris from Channel 5.
Okay, and why do you think that's so?
I think that's so because, for once, East Cleveland, being predominantly African American community, we have our own, we're the only one in the USA that has its own city. And they have a tendency, the media, to report negative news. And that makes it a social injustice when we have positive. It's an imbalance, a disparity of positivity versus negativity. We get all the negativity of the news that happens here. And it's unfair to the residents, unfair to the educators, the school district, the library, and City Hall. It's unfair. It's going to take the reality and the media, some media, public relations here, to actually, in documentaries, for the word out to let them, before you actually pronounce or announce any negativity, check it out, but also check into the positive things in this community. For example, no one hardly knew that John D. Rockefeller owned this city. The deed was found recently from 1937. He signed the deed over to this city. In the Forest Hill section, you had the Fords, the Rockefellers, okay, and the Vanderbilts lived all in the Forest Hill district of East Cleveland. Euclid Avenue was called Millionaire Road in the 1920s. The Model Ts had photos of that, you know? Okay, it was a wealthy community. The church, the Methodist church located at East Belmore and Euclid, the Rockefellers attended there, you know? So we have some vital history. The homes all in the Forest Hill district are probably identified and registered with the Ohio Historical Preservation Society in Columbus, Ohio. We have a rich history here that's not being really, I would say, announced or really just information distributed in the community about our city. And it makes me very angry when our city is not evaluated or announced properly in terms of the media. And the media needs to really change that. Those program directors of the media should really change and investigate and research and ask about our community. Show some positive things in the community. The Forest Hills District, and show that one. No one ever says about the graduates of Shaw High School. Approximately 80 to 90% of those graduates attend black colleges. Okay, they go away and they can have their degrees, and they come back and they're, the citizens of the community, educators. They have done high scholastically, on college SAT scores. No one ever mentioned, media never mentions that. We have our own East Clayville television that comes out with cable access community service news, mainly the political meetings at City Hall. I would like to see more community service organizations, right, videotaped and all, so they could get a lot of local resources. We have resources here that people benefit from. I love my city. I love the residents here and what they really stand for. And I will never forget East Cleveland, Ohio.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Dr. Cooper, tell me about your organization here, your tutorial services, and your fondest memory of East Cleveland.
Okay, the Greater Cleveland Tutorial and Training Service is still very active here during its 25th year anniversary, and it's still servicing the community residents. And my fondest memories for entering East Cleveland, Ohio in the early 1980s was that it was under a city manager government. Did not have a city council, and the people were very friendly, very friendly. A lot of the residents that I talked to were from the southern part of the United States, and they brought their southern hospitality to East Cleveland with them, and child rearing with their children as well, instilled values, character and all. When you enter the city of East Cleveland, from Lakeview Cemetery to Free Clinic, there is a difference. The population changes, the people are greeters. It's totally different from Cleveland. You can see that and experience that. Just crossing and entering East Cleveland Corporation city limits.
Is that a good experience for you?
That's a very good experience, because when you enter the city, you no longer observe urban blight. You don't see that. You see new condominiums. You see that there's construction of new homes. You see more businesses. And there are mixed cultures here. Korean, Chinese, Arabic, and African American. When I entered the city, it was totally African American, but we have mixed cultures here now. We have homes that people can purchase, reasonable rate bank rates. We have leaders in the community, educational leaders who represent the best interests of East Cleveland, what direction it wants to take. At the time I entered the city, 1981, the population was 39,952 people. That was the population. Since then, this is 2012, there's been a shift in housing stock, in population. We're now down to 27,000 as our population. And many people left East Cleveland because of financial reasons, unemployment. At one time, we had the highest unemployment rate in the county. And I also saw that the beginning, this was the early 1990s, of welfare reform. As a matter of fact, in 1981 and through 1984, I developed implemented my own welfare reform. I would take people off of public assistance program, train them, and actually place them in jobs.
Okay.
It could be done.
How did you do this?
And I did this. I had my lab, the equipment. The hospitals donated equipment and said, we will help you, assist you. We want to see this happen, make it happen. And I took people that had their associate degrees from Colgan Community College. Also, they had their bachelor's from Cleveland State University in education, and they wanted to volunteer. They just need direction, and they had some medical experience. So with the people, taking that cross-sampling the people, bringing them here, and said, let's do this. As a collective unit, a cross-section of the population, we were able to take a program, implement it out of the hospital, and place people in jobs. And this too, they were certified early because I would still have a testing site. The Metro campus of Cuyahoga Community College actually came into this facility at one time and had an extension course of medical terminology housed right here. And it was Cuyahoga Community College's medical term. So people could have accessibility to come here for medical term instead of commuting so far to the college.
Okay, so what made you decide to start your organization here in the city of East Cleveland?
Well, I wanted to challenge, a passion and a challenge to do something creative in the city. In 1979, the Ebony magazine out of Chicago, Illinois, the Johnson publication, had a photo of East Cleveland on the cover, and the first pages advertised East Cleveland as a mecca for African American businesses. And at that time, the superintendent was Dr. Edwards, superintendent of the school district of East Cleveland. He was there, interviewed about it, and at that time, the Shaw graduates and the Shaw band, it was the epitome of what you would want in the African American community. And that drew me here, attracted me here, because I'm looking and researching, this is where I need to be. In my own community, effecting some positive changes in education, and technical education, and technical employment. As I researched the community, I also saw that Cuyahoga Community College had a waiting list for a lot of their college students. And I'm stating, well, since you have the waiting list, let me do something about that. So I implemented the program. But a lot of the hospital-based technicians receive on-the-job training, but no certification credential. That was the key. So after planning, organizing, developing, and implementing a viable educational technical program with a testing site and accreditation, that was the key to successful employment. And I knew that I worked 18 hours a day with one bifocal lens, trying to do this myself. And I said, I'm going to keep doing it to meet the criteria, whatever it is. I'm going to be successful at it. And I'm going to stick with it. If it takes me 3 or 4 years, it's going to be done. I'm going to achieve it. Not as myself as personal accolades or anything, But actually, it's a program that was needed in this community because of the unemployment status. So I stayed here and continued on. And many people from the western boundaries of Cuyahoga County as well as the eastern boundaries were actually recipients of the training.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're recording.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you recollect a memory or instance when the community of East Cleveland fought for something, and how have surrounding institutions and cities impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Okay. First of all, the institutions surrounding East Cleveland would be your Case Western Reserve University. Then you have the free clinic, you know, and then you have different social service agencies. And on the borderline of East Cleveland, especially the St. Clair Avenue, Superior, part of those streets are Cleveland, and then there's a part of it's East Cleveland. I noticed that every private foundation that advertises over the internet, that actually when you submit a grant, they want you to include the statistics, the population statistics of East Cleveland, especially the Forest Hills District and St. Clair. But when your actual grant, they'll say for a state that we don't want to include East Cleveland, Ohio. They're not part of our listing of grants. But yet, they utilize our population statistics you need population statistics in order to actually receive the grant funds.
Why do they not want to include the city of East Cleveland, although they're using the statistics to receive the funds?
They don't want to include the city of East Cleveland. They're selective about the district, like the Forest Hills District, to include their statistics as East Cleveland, as representative of East Cleveland. I still say that it's a racial thing, because I experienced it myself. I submitted a mini grant to the community. It was a community grant, only $5,000, a mini grant for community services. And I had the grant reviewed by colleagues of mine. That grant should have gone through. They even stated, well, you're in East Cleveland, you have to be in Cleveland. So I went over the border for a minute and had another facility. They still called me up, the executive director, and said, oh, regrettably, I made you jump through hoops, but you're ineligible because you still, even though you're based in East Cleveland and you obtained a facility on the Cleveland side, we're still unable. We had to select out of 100 candidates, certain grants. Now, I know for a fact that this particular private foundation grant, it was a mini grant. They had approximately 100 board members. That's ludicrous to have that many serve on your board. And they were selecting, I felt they were selecting friends or colleagues. It was based on friendship and actually their contacts. It was not based on my merit. I had a good program. It was very valid. I know it had an impact on the community. And I know that it was really a racial thing, injustice done to me. It really was. Because after it was reviewed and evaluated by private colleagues in the field, I knew that grant should have been. But because like I said, it was racism, I received a Dear John or Dear Sally note like it wasn't selected. So, the same year, this was in 2008, early part, maybe March of 2008. In October 2008 of the same year, the Pine Saw Corporate Awards saw it, that it made a national impact. So if they evaluated the program and saw how it impacted its residents, why couldn't this local community's charitable trust see it? That's when I compared the two and realized it made it a racial project. It was a racial and discriminatory in selection. That compact, I was informed later by the director, they chose food banks, clothing banks, and homeless shelters. We have so many homeless shelters in Cuyahoga County. Not a one of them addressed the job objective like I did. And yet I was declined. But I didn't let it stop me because I didn't appreciate the clause that, oh, I'm sorry I made you jump through hoops. Oh no, I don't jump through hoops for anyone. And I won out in the end. And the only thing I did was to actually respond to the note card I received in the mail about the decline of funds, that I received a national award, corporate award, that thank you and no thank you, I did not need their funds to operate. And today I still hold that because I didn't let it stop me from implementing something that was viable and needed in this community. I fought and I won. And it was a national award and not a local one from Cleveland. You know, that just shows you disparity of cultures and also the racism that happens. It happens. It's alive and well. It does happen in this county. Martin Luther King, I knew his spouse, widow Coretta Scott King. Martin Luther King stated this upon arriving to Cleveland, that Cleveland, Ohio, he found the racism is number one in the northern part of Ohio, northeastern part of the United States. Cleveland was ranking as number one for racial inequality, and also Chicago, Illinois was number two. Now I had heard this, and I wanted to test and find out for myself. And when you're dealing with the private foundations of this county and dealing with people and different franchises, I am very cautious. And like I forestated, I do not depend on local funding, charitable trust, or private foundation. I deal with the national spectrum of grants and funds such as that. It would be nice to be a recipient of local, but I pursued the national, and that's where I am today.
Very successful with it.
Yes, I am, and I'm happy about it because it's still helping people to achieve their goals. I didn't accept the decline and give up because somebody or someone didn't have a vision or was not a visionary, such as myself. And based on the merit of the program, it was not about politics. I didn't have, political, I didn't depend on political backing. It wasn't politics, it wasn't religion. It was about business and doing the right thing.
Now, how many students have you placed through the Greater Tutoring?
From 1983 up until 2012, I would say between 2,000 and 3,000. That's a lot of people.
Okay, now what is your vision for the future of East Cleveland? And tell me about the major issues that you feel, well, you've discussed that address the community, the neighborhood, and the city.
Mm-hmm.
But more so, what is your vision, and what would you be prepared to do to participate in making East Cleveland's future better?
I would say if all the graduates from the different colleges, and even undergraduates would visit the area and would offer tutoring and mentoring programs to our youth of today. Then there would be our leaders for tomorrow. There, for political spectrum, we have aides in Washington, D.C., congressional aides that are selected or appointed from the areas of the congressional district. And East Cleveland, Ohio would actually be as a senatorial aide or congressional aide. The youth would to volunteer. That would be a start. And they would rotate each year with a congressional or senatorial aide because they would be familiar with the United States government and its operations and learn more about the politics involved in communities. That's number one. From a religious perspective, the churches should collaborate and form a coalition of churches that would actually provide some type of educational, not recreational, educational entertainment for our youth. If they need to have reading clubs, tutors, anything to elevate their scores on state proficiency exams, and also for SAT scores. I noticed that some of our district libraries offer SAT preparation, exam preparations. But our libraries in East Cleveland should probably consider that, having or housing some tutorial programs there. The libraries have free usage of community service rooms. They could be used for tutoring. They can be used for educational programs, short term. We have a computer lab in the library that's accessible. Since we have the medical march that will be here in the near future, and Cleveland Clinic is the center of all many health programs in Case Western Reserve, we should have some more medical training programs in the city of East Cleveland. Shaw High School has the little modules, nursing assistant training, automotive repair, phlebotomy training. They have this. Other communities such as Euclid, Ohio, and Euclid Heights, Ohio, and Euclid, Ohio, they have licensed practical nurses training programs. We need that in East Cleveland. They have it. In their junior year, they have practical nursing programs, and their senior year, they're graduating and taking their Ohio State boards, and they're full-fledged LPN. That's coming out of Euclid, Ohio, and Euclid Heights, South Euclid, in that area. We need that too in our area district.
Okay, so the medical field needs to be expanded in the high school?
Yes, more. Like Shaw has tried that, implementing it, but I'm talking about the higher levels of medical, like your medical technicians, your ultrasound. We have schools in Middleburg Heights. We have the colleges offering a 2-year program. But the graduates, the undergraduates, really don't make it to that level because they don't have the proficiency in math, sciences. You need the math and the physics and chemistry to pass these type of courses. Now, these institutions offer tutoring programs, but at a rapid pace that perhaps our students can't keep up with it, you know? The students that I have are from Europe. They don't have television over there. They have the internet, and they have to study. They get to school 12 months all through the school year. We have it 9 months. Mine is ongoing 12 months. Because you forget the knowledge or some objectives of the course if you take off 3 months during the summer months. So I would like to see a 12-month educational program. The students attend 12 months without a 3-month summer break in the school system. I would like to see nursing programs implemented out of the senior high school. I would like to see a higher rate or ranking of physics, chemistry, and math majors, because we have a tendency to avoid those natural sciences, to maybe take a liberal arts course in high school, in college, a liberal arts course in college, or education. We don't want the math and the natural sciences, math, physics, and chemistry. And we need to have that, because that is our future, is the technology. What I'm seeing now is the Euclid Corridor project that is coming into East Cleveland area. It was going to be excluded until the former Congressman Stokes and the former Mayor Brewer actually had a meeting with the Euclid Corridor people so that they would expand its boundaries into East Cleveland, and that will be a reality in the near future, as some out-of-state developers will invest in the invest funds in the city of East Cleveland. So there are a lot of economic changes. They are slow, but I think they're going to be actual reality that I would like to see. So really, I'm perceiving or observing East Cleveland as a comeback city. It's what it is, and it's advancing. Every community has its economic crises, it has its unemployment. Every suburb is experiencing that in this county. But East Cleveland always manages to dominate and stay on top, regardless of the negative impacts or negativity it receives from the media.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're in record mode. Hello, my name is Hank Smith. I'm working for the Case Western Reserve Social Justice Institute Voicing and Action Program. And I'm here to introduce to you Miss Lynette Ellison. And today's date is September 21st, 2012. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself and the history of your family?
Well, you know my name. I'm Geraldine Lynette Ellison. Previously, my maiden name was Johnson. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. We don't have to mention the year, but December 30th, long time ago. I was born actually at Mount Sinai Hospital. My family originated in the bayous of Louisiana after making it here to America, and they ended up settling in Ohio, in Cleveland, Ohio. I have two brothers, younger than myself. My mom is still alive and my father has passed. I'm now currently married. I've been married for 11 years to Daniel Ellison. I have 4 kids. I have Nicolette, who is 33, Otis, who's 30, Erica, who is 10, and Zoe, who is 8. I grew up in a number of communities here. I graduated from Shaker Heights High School. And that's where I mostly settled from my elementary time through college. But my family, my grandfather owned apartments here in East Cleveland when I was a kid. So the family, when we were younger, we kind of lived in his apartment buildings. And it was kind of neat having all the family together, and some of those buildings no longer exist. Off Eddy Road, on Hayden. It was a different time then. You know, we kids could go out and play. The neighbors kind of looked after you, and you couldn't get away with anything. Trust me. That was coming from a time when you got a whoop. If you did something wrong, you got a whooping from every neighbor down the street, all the way. And when you got home, your mother was waiting for you to finish it off. So there was a lot of accountability not to get caught doing anything wrong. Okay, which is quite different now. My mom moved from that area, and that's when we moved out into Shaker. Well, actually, we moved off of Carolina on Superior first. That was right around the race riots. And that was a tough time for us. It was a real tough time growing up there, fighting every day because my hair wouldn't go into a big afro. You know, everything was about Black power. And it just always amazed me that we would treat each other so badly. And then that's when my mom moved into Shaker. And from the 6th grade on, that's where I was. I loved it there. I liked the versatility. I loved the education and the things we got to do, having grass around our school, the opportunity to do things that most of my cousins that were in the Cleveland school districts couldn't do, you know, tennis and skiing and field hockey, just having a variety of things put out there for me. I left Cleveland in '95. I know I'm jumping ahead, but the rest was my wonderful youth that I enjoyed. And I moved to California for a while. And then my husband decided that California, because he was born and bred there, let's go back to the East Coast and, you know, live a simpler life, live an easier life, and get off the rat race, go to work, and be able to own our home. And we looked in a lot of places, and we could have bought homes in a lot of places. But we saw the Forest Hills area, and at the time we didn't have kids, and we thought, you know, this here is the life. Beautiful home, beautiful neighborhood, green, lush. It was East Cleveland, and I heard all the reasons why I should move to East Cleveland. But it made sense financially and for the kind of lifestyle we wanted to lead. So here's where we landed.
This is in what year?
2003. In 2003. And we looked a lot of places. Pepper Pike, Hunting Valley, far west, but we just kept coming back to this house. We had 2 kids, which was not in the cards, but we did. Doing that, we realized that we were becoming more a part of the community. Because now we had to go, as they say, down the hill. I learned a lot about the separatism in the city during that time. That the people down the hill felt that the hill people had entitlement issues, and we feel we were better than. I never thought that. I knew that we paid the tax base for the city. That's a fact. But I live in East Cleveland. So when at work and people were talking about, oh, how horrible it is, and don't ride through, especially the white folks, don't ride through East Cleveland after dark because you're going to get robbed. Everybody goes through there. You can't even stop at a stoplight. And that's the stories you hear. And then they go, well, where do you live, Lynette? And it's East Cleveland. And there was a time when I would say Cleveland Heights because I really didn't want to have to deal with you invite people to your home and you say East Cleveland, then nobody wants to come by. Because it's where I happen to be is, I guess, a gym. Everyone thinks it's a different city than it is. But going to schools down there and meeting parents and seeing all the, I don't know what the right word is, all the things that were wrong with the school board, with the schools, with the city itself, with our government, I knew I had to get into action, and for nothing else but for my kids. I joined a group called NOAA. And when I came to that group, it was to be a group of concerned citizens in the community who wanted to make change, who wanted to be able to go to City Hall, our government, and say, these are the things we want, these are the changes we want, to try to get more unity within our community so that we would have a collective voice instead of being the one crazy person at the podium. That was our hope. After about 2 years and doing a lot of fun things, I learned a lot being with them. But I did learn that what I wanted for the city and what they wanted was different. So I left the group for no other reason than for that. I'm more interested in social services and in empowerment for parents and to learn how to maneuver the school district, to learn how to be warriors for their children in the proper way so their voices are heard and they can have the changes made and get the things they need for their kids. Because there's a lot of things that are needed here. And sometimes they don't necessarily know what's the best for your particular child because the programs they have are geared for the group. The city, I'm glad I'm here. I don't think I could live anywhere else and have the opportunities I have for my life right now. And that's good, but I'm disappointed.
You're disappointed in the progress of the city, or what? Can you elaborate on that point?
I guess you'd say, yeah, the progress, our government, our community. And I know I probably came in on a pink cloud and not thinking I could save East Cleveland, ta-da, Lynette to the rescue. No. But wanting to take the things that I have learned, that I grew to learn more about being involved with NOAA and other organizations, and my own life and the different things I did, I didn't want to go out and teach these people how to eat. I wanted to help them learn how to fish, basically. I guess to use an old quote, we had a mayor not too long ago, Brewer. He may not have been the best mayor. I would have voted for him again. I don't care what he does at home. That's none of my business. It's what you're doing for the city. We had a mayor before him who lived right across the street from me. Lord knows I didn't vote him in. He was here when I moved here. We have a mayor now. And I think there are some things that are going to be positive for our community. I know I'm trying to choose my words. I don't want to be that angry woman at the podium, speaking on things. But I think the people in this city are also sad, and I think they're disappointed. And when we would go out to talk to them, they say, oh, nothing's going to change. It's always, they come around and they say, yeah, we're going to get together, and nothing changes. And from my experience, I didn't see much change that involved the community itself. I just didn't, and I still don't. There is change happening, but it really doesn't affect East Cleveland proper. If you live on the border of East Cleveland, then it may be some good things happening. But that concerns me.
So you're familiar with what's going on with the Circle East and University Circle moving in this direction.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're referring to, that part of the border?
Some of it, yeah. That's some of it. The loss of the hospital was big for revenue for the city alone. I understand there was some payout. I don't know I read in the paper what it was supposed to be, but I don't know how that really affects us in a positive way based on the fact that we have such a big deficit. And no, not that I know of, I haven't heard anything about how those funds are coming in and how they're going to be used to better our city. So I can't really speak on exactly how that's going to happen. And I don't have East Cleveland TV, so who knows? It could be out there in the stratosphere, but there's nothing been written, I believe, that I've seen to tell me how that's going to go. And, it's nice to redo old homes that need the love and needs family in it. I don't care if you're white, black, blue, or green. That's irrelevant to me. My problem was that these homes that could be purchased and redone and these tax abatements and all these things that will happen were not available to the people of the city who stood by the city. Now, maybe it's changed since I have been out of that circle. And maybe it has. I don't know. But as far as I know, it hasn't. And my understanding is in those new apartments and those new homes, you need to be an employee of the University Circle area, doctors, teachers, whatever you may be in the University Circle. Then you are able to buy those homes and get those tax cuts and all these great things. And yes, we need new blood, new money in our city. We need more of a tax base in our city. Yes, I'm not denying that. I just have a problem with the people in the city not reaping some of the benefits of this. I'm disappointed that a lot of abandoned homes were taken down in that area. Some were taken down in other areas, if you yelled loud enough, but not enough were taken down. We were told 300 in a year and a half or 2 years, and I think it's 75, and it's been 4 years. At least 75 on paper that I knew of last 2 years ago. And I believe most of any overage were done in that University Circle area, where buildings and things were taken down so they can build the new condos. And I guess for me, it's a problem. I would have loved to have been able to see people who've lived here forever, own their homes forever. They can't move. You're not going to get as much money out of it as you need to move anywhere else. So why would you sell? Because you can't afford to live anywhere else. So tear those abandoned buildings down next to those homeowners that are there. Even if you can't do those blocks and blocks of apartments, make those people who live here, who stood here, who stayed here, feel more comfortable in the space that they live in. So yeah, that disappoints me. It disappoints me that the city, the school board, and the community, I'm not saying the community is, innocent in this, just won't step up. Just won't say what they want to say. And say it loud enough and long enough, and understand that you don't have to, saying it once isn't going to get the job done. So I kind of pulled myself out of the community work, and I just kind of do things that affect the direct effect of my children, which in effect affects other kids. going through the Cleveland Food Bank and getting a backpack program at Chambers, having a uniform exchanged, just small things that can help make a difference for a family. My grandmother always said, if you could save one child, you don't have to save the whole family. You've saved a generation. So I kind of look at it like that. I don't expect that I could take East Cleveland and make it different or better, but I would hope that one person would have the desire to do one thing. So how do you keep fighting the good fight when you're constantly getting beat upside the head, and everyone who is supposed to be standing behind you, every time a blow hits, they back off a little bit, they move out the way, and there you are, pummeled in the middle of the heap, and they're going, wow, that's a strong person. As they back up and drive off in their cars, you know? I don't know.
Can you think back to your earliest memories of East Cleveland and tell me what life was like then?
On the building my grandfather had on Hayden, I was down from, I don't remember the name of that bar, not far from Holyoke. It's not there anymore. And my grandfather lived in the front apartment, and my aunt lived in the apartment behind him, and my mom was upstairs. And there was a lady across from us. And I remember this woman would leave her kids and be out. And we would all be on the front porch, the brick porch there, and her kids would be on the porch in their diapers. And I always wonder why nobody ever did anything. You know, I was young. I didn't really know you're supposed to call the police or, 696 kids, I don't think existed then. But I remember my aunts and my grandparents would feed those kids and change those kids' diapers. They wouldn't go in the house. They'd just reach over on the porch and change their diapers. And neighbors who lived in the building or next door to our apartment would bring food or sandwiches to the kids. That's a happy thought. Even though I know it may sound pitiful, this woman left her kids there alone. They were babies. I'm talking really young kids on their own. But the fact that community stepped in, didn't ask for anything. I don't think they ever talked to her or said anything bad to her. They just did what they needed to do. And I guess that's kind of what I was looking to hope to be to bring back here. So that would be my best earliest memory.
Okay. In what ways has the city changed over time, and what do you think contributed to those changes?
I think crack cocaine ruined the city. Considering there were so many black-owned businesses, everything was just about black-owned businesses, practically. And stores, corner stores, and all the little shops and wig stores and clothing stores. I think crack cocaine came in and it was never the same after that. People lost their businesses to shrimp boat, and then people came in like vultures, which is business, and got an opportunity to get into a thriving area and take those businesses because they were either going to lose them, so they sold them cheap, or they had already lost them and they bought them cheap. When that happened, and there were no more, and then we lose industry. We lose LTV. We lose Fisher Auto Body, which happened before that, but it was just a succession, When we lost all that, then there were no jobs. And all those apartment buildings and all those homes that had families in them couldn't be maintained anymore. They just couldn't be maintained. And if they were turned into crack dens and drug houses, or squatters moved in and they didn't care. Aluminum siding was sold and the copper piping, so now you got floods in the house, and it's just one thing after another after another. And I think then it became flight. It wasn't even about white flight, because there weren't that many white people left in the lower part of East Cleveland. But it just became a point of, uh-oh, we got to go, because we don't want to live like this. So then the homeowners that were able to get out did. And that left a rental base. But then you have landlords that were slum landlords. And they didn't care about fixing their apartments up or their homes up. They just wanted to get the money, and people were desperate to live someplace. And next thing you know, this was the drug place, you know. You couldn't walk down the streets, prostitution, drug dealers, drug addicts, homeless people. Nobody cared. Government was taking their payolas or fighting with each other, and half of them probably shouldn't even have been in city government back then, because they had their own issues. Should have probably been out there with the other folks on the street. But it is what it is. It is what it is. And I think people just got disgusted and got tired. You can only call the police so many times or call City Hall so many times and say, hey, 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 and nothing changes. What's your other option? Leave, or just act like you don't see it and do the best you can to survive.
How has race and racism impacted you personally, and how has it impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Personally, well, my husband's white, so I'm in an interracial marriage. And, excuse me, some cases, it's not accepted, even today. And it's from people within the city, is all I'm speaking of. I won't even go outside the city. That black woman with that white guy, oh, she thinks she's white now. Oh, she's, oh, that's how she got on the hill. Okay, whatever. How about I went to work every day? Okay, for a long, long time and saved up to do it. It doesn't impact me in a way that would cause me to run, because I do what I want to do anyway. I don't really give a flying flip about what somebody thinks about me. That's your business, it's not mine. What people think about me really isn't any of my business. Plain and simple. I do my best to live my life, to raise my children, to be open, to be loving, to accept everybody, no matter who they are, for what they are to them. Bad people are bad people to you. There are some bad people that are just bad people, mind you. But on the whole, because one person doesn't have a good experience with that person doesn't mean you will. How it's impacted the city? I think that comes mostly from the outside. I don't know if you ever read the blogs on the Cleveland.com, and you hear, and at work, places at work, you hear white people making all these statements about East Cleveland should be burned down. It should just be put a fence around it and keep all the druggies and the killers and the baby rapers all locked in that city. And that's their opinion. Mind you, they don't come this way. Not that Parma's doing so much better either, okay? And I wonder if we even perpetuate the lie sometimes. But I won't necessarily say that we perpetuate it. I think that's just the way this country is built right now. If you're walking around with your pants hanging down around your butt, and you're walking around in your pajamas and do-rags, and you're not speaking English that anyone can understand, and I'm not going to say proper English because I'm none's teacher and I don't always do it right, but speaking in a way that other people can understand what you're saying, allowing your home to look the way it does, with trash on the outside. I don't care what the inside looks like, that's where you live. But cleaning the front of your home, then you perpetuate a lie yourself. It doesn't take that much time to pick up the trash in your front yard. It doesn't take that much time to plant a flower, or put a pot on your porch. My mom gets mad at me sometimes because I'll say, gee, it's hard for me to understand why they can't buy a can of paint and paint the front porch. But they have gone out and gotten $40 worth of nails and $200 worth of weave and a belt with Bobby D's name on it. And it took me a while to really get. She told me one day, she said, you know, maybe that's what it takes for them to get up out of bed and feel good about themselves. When I look at it like that, I go, okay, she's right. Maybe that is what it takes, just to feel good about yourself. And I guess I just see it, I see it different. For me, it's different. It's family first, my home, my community. Not to say I'm selfless, because I'm far from selfless. But there are things that are more important to me than what my outside is, or that my nails are done, or that I have, the Coach bag on my arm. But those are choices I make. And I guess I wonder, I know I shouldn't wonder, because the truth of the fact, if you weren't taught to know any different, you only know what you know. You can't see till you can see, and you can't know till you can know. Racism in this city, it's hard to say because 90% of the city is black. And then the 6% that's white live on the Hill mostly. And I have to say it is a separate attitude. I have to say it is. I don't think from my talking with my neighbors that it's about, we're better than anyone who doesn't live on the Hill. But it's let's maintain what we have so that we don't end up like that. Let's be cautious and gentle with our neighbors and give them gentle nudges when things are going south, because what happens next door to my house affects my house. But we're a little more open. And I don't think it's just because we're white or we're black. I think it's because we are a community, and we are looking out for the best of our community, not just for the best of ourselves. Because we can still walk our streets at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at nights up here. Walk your dogs, and you see families out or riding their bikes at night. And that's what I would want for everybody. So I don't know. I think if anything, it's because of lack of knowledge and people not really asking the questions or getting to know the people on the Hill. And the people on the Hill not wanting to go down the hill to the Civic Center to use their gym or even to the library, because you have to park way in the back and there are abandoned buildings back there to walk around to the front of the library. I understand it. I get it. I truly do. I personally am not all that enchanted with the Civic Center. It needs some work. It needs more structure so that you feel safe walking through. It really does. It needs more light in the parking lot. I get why you wouldn't want to go down there 8 o'clock at night. I went because my kids were taking dance classes. They were taking acting classes. And I made the choice just to bite the bullet and do it because I wanted to do it in my community. And I guess that's what I really think would help make us better, if we started really doing the stuff in our community. I don't know anywhere else where my kids can learn African dance and ballet and theater, and they've done plays and they performed in all these different places by going to a center where it was mostly free or very little money, right in your own community. And I think the more of us that go, the better it'll get. They'd have more money to paint. They'd have more money to put lights out. They'd have more income to make it better. But we as a community have to do it. I don't blame it all on the city. No, no, no. The community has to also show up and do what they need to do if they want it to be better. But I think it's a lot has to do with a renter's mentality. And when you're just renting and you don't own and you're not vested because you could be gone in the next month or the next 2 months or year, why would you care? Because you're not paying those taxes. And most of the homeowners are, no, I won't say most, that's a bad word. A lot of the homeowners are not paying their taxes either. And I would say that's probably the biggest difference here where I am and the other part of East Cleveland is we're vested. We can't change everything about East Cleveland, but we darn sure can make sure that we maintain what we have. Because we own. The ratio is way different to renters up here than it is on the other part of East Cleveland. Excuse me.
How has inequality impacted you personally, and how has it impacted the city of East Cleveland?
You know, inequality, I'm not sure if it really has affected me so much personally. You know, I embraced the whole quota thing they had to do many moons ago, that you have to have an African American. I was always blessed that I usually was the only African American, and I filled a couple of bases for them. I was black, I was a woman, and I was older. Hey, they got 3 in one shot, you know. For me, it always worked out. Maybe not so much for other people. I know things are a little, I can be treated differently in certain places based on if I go alone or if I go with my husband and my mother-in-law. I would say that. For East Cleveland, inequality, see, that's a tough one because I think there's a lot of stuff out there that could benefit us. The inequality, and I don't know if that's even the right word, I think it's our government that we've had in East Cleveland for the past 20 years that have been bad, that have been wrong, that have taken advantage. Some, not all, some have really taken advantage of the community, the funds that came into the community, the things that could have happened for the community. And this goes back at least 20 years, if not more. Probably more. That's what's wrong, in a nutshell. If our government were not infighting with each other so much, and this is ongoing. This is not just the new mayor in office. I'm not trying to say, oh, this is just happening because Gary's in office. No, 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 no. This has been tradition, it seems, in this city for many, many years. That's the problem. That's what causes the inequality. Because the more they don't do, the worse off the city becomes. And then it starts to look like the sore festering that no matter what anybody sends in or tries to give to make it better, it doesn't get better because nobody's taking the pill. Nobody's taking the shot. They're collecting all the medicine, okay? They're putting it to the side because, you know, I might need it myself or, hey, there may be a better good. I think that's the biggest problem. And if these things from years ago hadn't happened and just got progressively worse to where we are today, and it's like digging yourself out of a hole. It's no different than the president we have today was in a deep hole, and everybody thought he got in that hole was going to whoop, fill up. No, it's not going to happen that way. But we still have to change. We can't continue to do the same thing and expect different results. So inequality, I think, is not the right word for that for me. It's lack of thinking the community first.
Now, at one time, East Cleveland had a form of government that was called city management. Mm-hmm. And then it changed over to the council administration. What did you think about that change? Or do you think that was a better idea?
On paper, it probably is a better idea. I think on paper it is. Once again, even from before to now, everybody was doing what they wanted, that was best benefited them for their future jobs, for the future jobs of their friends, families, and the payola and the favors they had to do. In a perfect world, the way the city government is set up, it should work. You have a group of people who live in the neighborhood, who represent their neighborhoods, speaking on behalf of their neighborhoods to the person in charge of that group who takes it to the mayor, is the way it should be. It's not like that. It's chaotic. My ward person has never knocked on my door. And as far as I know, they definitely haven't left a flyer on my door saying, hey, so, so no, I think it could be in a perfect world the way it was written to be. It should, but everyone is worrying about what the next person is doing, and you can't do this unless you get our permission, and I can't do this, and I can overdo. We can't get anything done. We can't get anything done because nobody wants to be the person without the good idea, it seems. I'm not on city council, so I don't know. But it appears to be if somebody has a good idea, somebody else is going to veto that idea. And that's a problem. We can't get ahead.
Can you recollect a memory or instances when the community fought for something?
Can I recollect a memory? Community fought for something. No. I mean, I was a kid, when I was much younger, so I don't recall then. And in the 10 years I've been here, the red light, but they even gave that up. They even gave that up. No. And I think that's part of the problem. There is no fight anymore. There just isn't. I think people have given up and said, it is what it is, and my vote doesn't count, and what I say doesn't matter because they're going to do what they want, which is usually what happens. And those red light cameras are ridiculous. Did you read how they wrote that up? Of course you wouldn't know what you were voting for. I knew what I was voting for. Okay, I did vote for it. I knew exactly what, but the way they wrote it, you really wouldn't know what you were really saying yes to. Is it going to bring more money in? Maybe. For somebody. But considering how much money they're supposedly brought in, it would be nice not to have potholes in the middle of the street. Or leaves picked up. They only have a small area to pick up leaves from, so it shouldn't be that big of an issue, but no, I don't recall in a while anyone really fighting for anything here.
Excuse me, how have surrounding institutions and cities impacted East Cleveland?
I think Cleveland Heights thinks of us as like a little canker sore. They put up with us here because, we keep our houses nice. Cleveland, nobody wants to touch us. I mean, really, they don't. I mean, it's, pretty foul. They got to pick up a lot of mess when they pick this place up. And I think University Circle is jumping in on a dying well and biting off little pieces. Will it be better for the city? For some. I don't know if it's really impacted. You can look at a lot of the cities surrounding us and you could see a little change. And it may not be like the Taj Mahal, but you can see the change. You can see the camaraderie at the meetings and the block clubs they have and how they come together. You just can't see that here. You have small groups of people that get together, but they just can't seem to make it work together. I don't think the other cities that were impacted by us at all. They decided, you know what, Euclid said no more alcohol being sold from this area to this area. That keeps everybody from East Cleveland from going into their area to buy liquor. Okay, so nobody's going that way anymore. You go the opposite way toward downtown, there's not much for you to go to. So everything is right here in your little center. We don't even have a grocery store that's viable. Last time we went to Coney's and we bought, some ranch dressing, came home, my daughter read it, it was dated like 2009. I mean, come on. This is the markets by us. You go and have fresh meat sliced. I thought I'd give them a try. Fresh meat, what can you do? It's a fresh ham in the deli section. It was full of this like white slime. This is what they're selling, but if you don't know what it's supposed to look like, you're gonna go home and eat that. Because you can't drive up the hill and you can't get to Severance and go grocery shopping and bring back all your food because you can't take carts off the parking lots anymore. Where are you gonna go? And then you want to say they're spending their food stamps on this and on that and fast food. Well, where else are they going to go? They don't have to. If you don't have transportation, your kids have to eat. You're going to do what you have to do, and the stores take advantage of that. More power to them. It's business. But we're doing the best we can. Why don't we have a grocery store here? But trust me, I think in another year or so, university keeps doing what they're doing, we're going to have Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, banks. Everything's going to be coming up this way because all those doctors they need the store. They're not going to Coney's. So it'll change.
Well, what is your vision for the future of East Cleveland? And tell me about the major issues that need addressing in order to better your neighborhood, the community, and the city.
Wow, that's a lot. Let's see. My vision or what I believe could happen, maybe two different things. My vision would be for this city to get its stuff together, get its crap together, stop the infighting, for the people to get off their butts and put somebody on city council in the mayor's office that really is working for their benefit, not looking for their next job in the Senate or Congress or in Washington, or looking to move from city council to mayor. Find somebody who's really about the people so that we put the people first. We put the community first, put the schools first. We need more control over who is our superintendent. And that comes by hiring the board members. We have to put the right board members in there that are going to hire the right person. Same with the library. We got a school board that's pulling people for, it's just, everything is just so intermeshed. So I would like to see more autonomy, separate voices, collectively singing. I don't think that's going to happen. I believe within 5 to 10 years, well, I know they can't do anything with the Hill till 2019 because of the 100-year deed on this ground up here from Rockefeller. I envision them sectioning it off, and the Hill will belong to probably Cleveland Heights. East Cleveland will probably be a village if it exists, because everything from Superior down will be University Circle. That's what I see. 5 schools will be down to 1 or 2 to no school. That's what I think would probably happen. And that would be sad to see a great, great, great city that was settled by women, basically, because the men were off fighting and finding food in the woods up here for their families to eat. To see a city like that go away really built by women. I mean, the men built the buildings, but the women were the ones here and kept the glue together.
That's probably still the same way in most
In most areas.
communities. What would you be prepared to do to participate in making East Cleveland a better place to live?
That's a trick question, Hank. Oh, that's a trick question. What would I be prepared to do? You know, as terrible as this probably would sound, I don't know anymore. I gave up 200% of myself for 3 years in a group, an organization that I thought was about change. Another 2 or 3 years, 4 years, trying to make a difference in the school district. Collectively, 10 years trying to do things that would hopefully make it better. What I've learned is that I can't be the crazy lady at the podium anymore. And I won't be the crazy lady at the podium anymore. And I think once collectively people want to really fight, and fight the good fight, because it's not just going and having one protest. It's an ongoing process. It could take a year, but the change will happen if we stick together. But they expect us to fall off. What would I be willing to do? That depends on government, and that depends on the people mostly. It depends on the people. Yeah, one voice can be heard, but one voice can also be drowned out. And it seems to work that way here. So I suppose if the right opportunity came around, the right cause and reason, I could probably be coerced to get on board. But I really can't say now, the way this city sits right now, I'm tired. And I took a lot of time away from my family and kids. And that can't happen for nothing. For something, yes, but for nothing, no.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate all the input that you had for this interview. And again, I want to thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.